Hey guys, if you're shopping for knives and gear, make sure you check out the description of the video you're watching right now for a link to my Amazon store where I've compiled some of the very best knives and gear. There's a whole bunch of different categories, including some of my own personal recommendations. There's something down here for everybody, so make sure you take a look. Thanks! What's going on, YouTube Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review slash knife overview to do with you guys. This is the TuyaKnives Envy 2. And a lot of you are probably wondering, was there an Envy 1? There was, and if you're like me, you were not aware of it, so I guess I might have been out of the loop. This knife was sent to me by my good friend and patron at Andrew T_23 on Instagram. He's also the very first person to join my channel membership program. So thank you very much, Andrew, for being a huge supporter of the channel in multiple ways and for sending this guy so that I can review it. Please give him a follow. It's because of people like him that I can bring you guys daily knife content. Also, thank you so much to all of my other patrons who've been supporting this channel, especially during this time. I can't tell you how much that means to me. If you would like to support this channel, there is a link for my Patreon down in the description. You can get your hands on some stickers and gain access to the exclusive content there. Anyways, let's go ahead and take a measurement of this guy. Overall length is coming in just shy of 8 inches. It looks to be something like, boy, I was convinced it was 8 inches on the dot. It's about 7.8 inches overall. The blade length is coming in at about 3 1/4. Yeah, it depends on where you measure it. It could be 3 1/2 in some places, 3 1/4 because of how that slant is. The actual cutting edge is coming in at just shy of 3 1/4. So it's a good size knife, still a full size knife, I think, by many people's definition. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons here up against the Ontario Rat Model 1. Rat 1's coming in at 8.6 inches overall. How about up against the Spyderco PM2? PM2's coming in at 8.3 inches overall. How about up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue? Ritter Hogue coming in at 8 inches overall. So you can see there, it's not quite 8 inches. It looks and feels to be about a Benchmade Griptilian-esque size knife, but it's a little shorter. And last but not least, the Spyderco Para 3. Spyderco Para 3 is coming in at 7 1/4 inches overall. How's the action on this guy? Well, this is a TuyaKnife, so it is made in China. For whatever reason, I was not expecting it to feel so smooth. This is on par with the other really high-end Chinese OEMs that are kind of, you know, on top of their game right now, namely like WE Knives, your Bestech, you know, companies like that. It's right up there with that. Not only do we have a very smooth and nearly frictionless, really virtually frictionless action, we also have a very well dialed in detent. I mean, this is all what you can expect for this price range of knife, especially in this day and age. But it's nice, you know, and I'm not saying any Tuya knives that I've held in the past, it's very limited, right? I started, my first Tuya knife was kind of right when they started to enter the scene, and I was like, yeah, it's pretty good. And then I handled this guy, and I was like, okay, this is right up there with what I expect from everything else. And that's nice. It's nice to know that because these guys are an OEM, we have a lot of companies working with them right now, a lot of designers working with them. So it's nice to know, after handling this, that they're capable of producing this type of quality. Rest assured, you are getting a quality item. This is basically a fall shut knife with a little teeny tiny bit of encouragement, but snappy, solid. There's nothing in there that feels less than, you know, I feel ensured that the knife is locked up, and I feel ensured that the knife is closed. You know, either position, the entire knife feels very quality, so that's nice. It is running on bearings, and it is obviously, you know, evident. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and do the hardware check real quick before I forget. Get out my handy dandy Ouya bit selector and Ouya magnetic driver, 2 items that are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them down in the Amazon store that I reference at the beginning of every single video. Just pull it open and look for knife maintenance. Let's see here. T8 is what I'm going to guess on those body screws because they look fairly large. And I am correct. T8 there, and what's the pivot size? Is it also T8? Oh, it's a little bit, wait, let's make sure. Let's make sure. Yeah, T8. So it's T8 across the board. Is even the lock bars, yeah, everything's T8. How about the pocket clip screw? Are we going to get lucky and even that one will be a T8? Yep. I love that. When they're all the exact same size, you don't even have to change the bit out. It's just all T8. There you go. Perfect example. This is exactly how it should be. Thank you so much, TuyaKnife. And the designer on this, I believe, it says right here, it says DW2. I would imagine for the NV2 model. Is it Dave Warren? I'm not familiar with that maker. And in the midst of the review, I'm questioning if it was Daryl Warren or Dave Warren. I believe it's Dave Warren. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I hate getting stuff like that incorrect. Anyways, we'll go ahead and move on here. That's wonderful. We've got the same size hardware all the way around. How about carry profile here? We have a knife that is made out of titanium that on the inside, grab that flashlight here, has actually been nicely milled out, right? So it doesn't feel super lightweight. And then we also have a spine thickness, certainly not thin on the spine. Spine thickness of 160 thousandths, which is fine. Hinder XM18 thickness. We have a different grind here. The main difference between the TuyaKnife NV1 and NV2 apparently is the grind. This one is flat up here by the tip, and then it is hollow down here, so it actually gets nice and really, really nice and thin down here behind the cutting edge. Really supporting the qualities of M390, the main one being edge retention. That's always really nice to have a performance-oriented blade. And then you still have good thickness carried out to the tip, right? So you have some durability depending on what you're doing. But anyways, carry profile. We do have a flipper tab sticking out, which is really only a problem if you carry anything else in your pocket besides your knife. If you're like me and it's just a knife pocket, you don't have to worry about it. But you can see there it's definitely not as tall as the PM2 or Para 3, so we don't have an issue there. And in terms of length, it's just barely longer than the Spyderco Para 3, and it's a little bit shorter than PM2. In terms of thickness, the titanium is ever so slightly thicker than the G10 scales. Well, yeah, it's just a little bit thicker than the Spyderco Para 3. I mean, in terms of the pocket, like I'm actually wearing sweatpants right now, and you know, I can notice it, but in terms of how it carries in your pocket, how the clip holds it to your pants, you're not gonna have a problem with that. It's like I always say, you know, if you're wearing thin pant material, if you're wearing light pant material, or if you're in an area that, you know, would call for dress pants, you know, this is probably not an appropriate knife. For regular everyday EDC, if you're outside, camping, hiking, fishing, you work outside, you wear jeans, you wear heavy duty pant material, right? This is gonna be right at home for a lot of people. Let's go ahead and weigh it real quick. Get out my scale. Like I said, we're looking at a knife that is under 8 inches overall. It's got some milled out titanium and a reasonably thick blade, but it's not a huge knife overall. So what we're coming in at is honestly a surprising 3.92 ounces, under 4 ounces. Yeah, full titanium, almost 8 inches, and a completely usable blade on what I would consider to be a full-size knife that I can get a full grip on. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. For those of you who go by 1 ounce an inch, or, you know, whatever, everybody's got their own different measurement. You might think differently, right? If you're a Benchmade bug out or Spyderco Para 3 lightweight person, that might not be your cup of tea. For me, I'm completely fine with that. You know, the ratios on this knife I think are good. I'm happy. There was something I mentioned right there that I was gonna bring up, and I can't remember what it was now. Maybe it'll come to mind while I'm moving forward. But anyways, let's go ahead and take a look at the anatomy of the knife. So we have some contouring on this this titanium that's been sort of, I mean, it kind of looks bead blasted, but then you get up close and it almost takes on a slightly, you know, reflective. So, I mean, it's matte, but it's kind of reflective in a way that's not typical of, well, let me give you an example of what it is that I'm talking about if I can find the right pouch here. Bead blasted to me is the finish that's on a Chris Reeve knife, right? This is a different finish. It's almost like that Cloudy Day finish that I reference sometimes. It's sort of in between tumbling and matte or bead blasted. But what's nice here, and the camera's really picking up when I get close, you can see those ever so slight micro mill lines in the titanium, and it creates a really, really nice aesthetic. The fine details in this, in the machine work, really shine, and I appreciate that. I appreciate the contouring, all the smooth edges all the way around. This knife is very comfortable. It's very ergonomic, very comfortable. Even though there is jimping on the underside here, they've taken care to really round this down. So, I mean, as you can see there, sorry, I bumped the camera, it's really, really nice. I mean, this position right here is just excellent. And, you know, we've got a pocket clip that I suppose is a little bit pokey, but honestly, you know, I'm not feeling it right here. Everybody's experience might be slightly different, but I don't have a problem with that. This is really comfortable. Moving on to the blade, we have on this version a satin finish blade. Now, I'll admit, I've seen a couple different versions of this. I don't think there are a lot of versions of this that are available right now. In fact, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't think that I can find a version of this that's available right now, though I've been proven wrong in the past. So it's one of those things where you might be able to check their website. It seemed like they might have one in stock or periodically have them in stock. But as far as other retailers like White Mountain Knives, I checked like the Knife Joker. There was a couple of other places and they were sold out. This is a popular knife, more popular than I realized that it was. And so when I checked, I wasn't seeing a lot of hope that they're readily available, but I would say it's likely, you know, that these were not. I didn't see anything that indicated that they were limited, but again, that could be, I could be wrong about that. I'm not always right, and that information sometimes is a little bit more difficult to dig up than what some people think. But because there are so many people, you know, so many different people who watch and comment, you know, I'm sure if one person knows out of however many people watch this, then, you know, they can let us know. Because that'd definitely be helpful. So check the comments section, because I might be incorrect about that. But there were different versions of this. I saw some different versions with anodizing. I would imagine different finishes on the blade. This seems to be their standard version with sort of this subdued finish on the titanium and a satin finish up here on the blade. We have a drop point blade with a subtle swedge that drops down to the tip. This looks like an old school Rick Hinder or Spanto grind. Absolutely. We have the flat carrying out to about like 85% the length of the blade, and like I said, a nice amount of thickness out here. All these have been nicely knocked down. There's no areas up here, you know, even where it looks a little sharp, it really isn't. It's really nicely knocked down, and I appreciate that. It really is emphasized right here outside of the jimping on the spine of the blade. You can see there how well knocked down that is, and it's really nice. The satin, you know, the machine work here on the bevel that drops to the cutting edge is really, really nice. The entire blade looks good. I believe Andrew uses this just a little bit, a couple of hairline marks on there that are typical from use. I always prefer a tumbled finish over a satin finish, but everybody's different, and the contrast is nice, you know, the reflectivity of the blade and the subdued look on the titanium, so I appreciate that. You can see here we have the main logo up front, and then on the back you just see DW2 and then M390 in the blade, which this is M390. I think I brought that up a little bit earlier. I think, you know, it's like I've said before, S35VN and M390 sort of seem to be interchangeable blade steels on knives like this. And when I say knives like this, I mean titanium frame lock flippers, whether they be American or Chinese or whatever. That's kind of the main thing right now, is titanium frame lock flippers on bearings that are either S35VN or M390. That's what everybody wants. That's exactly what this is. I would have taken either. I honestly prefer S35VN over M390 as a user steel, but I know a lot of people are, including myself, are plenty happy with M390. Most people consider it to be better than S35VN. Take that for what it's worth. But anyways, yeah, I'm happy with that. This does have a stop pin that you can see right there, and then on the back you can see it is rounded. It does actually go quite deep underneath the back of the blade tang. That's always nice. It helps decrease wear of the lock bar, so I appreciate that. I always prefer that the hardware is not black. I think, you know, there's a lot of ZT knives that are full titanium with the same similar finish, and they use black hardware, and I don't know why aesthetically that bothers me. I always prefer satin hardware, but again, this is a personal thing. So a lot of people like kind of the breakup of the monochromatic look of knives like this, right? They kind of prefer the black hardware, so there's something to look at besides just an all steel sort of Terminator look with the knife. So that's just a personal quirk, but it looks okay. I'm not saying it looks bad. I'm saying it's a personal preference. I wish it was satin. What I do really appreciate is the fact that there's only 2 screws on each side holding in a titanium backspacer that has a lanyard hole that is, for the most part, out of the way. It's not being completely prioritized, but it's out of the way. And that they're all T8. That's fantastic. I mean, there are little tiny aesthetic quirks about this knife that I can overlook, like the black hardware, simply because it has a hardware setup that is beneficial to the end user. So I appreciate that. Lanyard loop, like I said, it's there. It doesn't need to be there. I don't know that it necessarily goes perfectly along with the design, but it also doesn't take away from the design either. It is being not prioritized, but it's sort of there. Like if this was all handle, then you could move that up a little bit more. But what difference would a 1/4 of an inch make on pocket clip movement? So I don't know if that's really something that I can complain about and, you know, like take myself seriously. I do like that they added the milling pattern right here that you see on various edges of this knife to the pocket clip. It looks really good. The pocket clip is super simple, but it does go along with the look of the knife, in my opinion, and it does its job, right? It has that ramp. It's not so much of that tooth that I talk about that really pinches when you try to put it in. This knife is you know, fairly easy to get over your pants pocket. Every now and then you're going to have to use two hands where you sort of hold the pocket and you sort of palm the knife in. It depends on what kind of pants you're wearing, but it's perfectly acceptable. It does have a steel lock bar insert that doubles as the over travel stop. The knife is perfectly centered. You can see right there, nice and centered, and it locks up absolutely solid. No play, up, down, left, or right. We're locking up with a full engagement on the lock bar insert, and the entire lock bar sitting somewhere about 50%, which is totally acceptable. This knife runs about $220 to $230 on various websites, and I mean, we're all used to seeing that price. This knife is, in a lot of ways, very, very vanilla. They didn't go out of their way to do anything ultra different. This is kind of a play it safe design, but it's a great example of another really well-made titanium frame lock. I mean, it's got everything that everybody wants with slight changes in, you know, it's got its own blade shape, but a blade shape that people are familiar with. It's got its own handle design, but it's a handle design that people are pretty much familiar with. And then there's nothing insane going on with the aesthetics, right? There's subtle things, the little machine work down here, right? For somebody that's looking for just a good, straightforward, high-functioning titanium frame lock that's right within the parameters that we're all used to seeing with the same materials, right? Just want something that's just a little bit different, right? It's just got its own thing going on. Yeah, I mean, you're definitely going to be happy with this. The problem is that there's like a billion of these to choose from, right? If somebody came up to me and said, Complex, I got I'm comfortable spending $200, $250 to be pushing it, but I'm looking for a titanium frame lock flipper on bearings that's got either S35VN or M390. What should I go with? I'd be like, sit down. I got a list of 140 of them that I literally have handled and can recommend. There are so many out. This is arguably one of the most difficult places in the knife world to be to be successful right now. I mean, there are so many models that are just kicking butt in this area. You really have to do something stand out to shine, right? Now, this already is a popular model. It doesn't need me to go, yes, it's a popular model. No, it doesn't care, right? The model's already popular. I mean, the people have spoken. People seem to like this from what I understand, right? And I can understand exactly why. I mean, it's very, you know, high functioning. It's nice ratios. It flips well. The blade looks good. I mean, this honestly is right up my alley. It's every time I see a titanium, I mean, I'm not the only reviewer to say this, you know, and it's another titanium frame lock flipper on bearings. It's really, really good. And there's not a whole lot of other features that make it stand out. But for people who are interested, right, they've got the money and they're like, I like how that looks. You're definitely going to get a knife that's worth the money, and you're definitely going to get a high-functioning item that's sure to last you for a really long time. I don't know that there's a whole lot more that I can say, but I am really happy to have had an opportunity to handle this and sort of play with it. And it honestly is a joy. I mean, in terms of fidget factor, I mean, I can sit around and do this all day because it's very easy to disengage. I mean, I'm even doing that left-handed, right? And I'm right-handed. But everything is comfortable. Nothing is sharp. Nothing is annoying. Nothing creates a bother. I mean, it's just a perfectly well-designed, straightforward titanium frame lock flipper. The only thing, I mean, like, literally my only quirks are, they could have moved the lanyard loop down a little bit, and the pocket clip could be a little less pointy right there, but geez, there's really nothing else to complain about. It's just another great example of how perfected the titanium frame lock flipper is all the way around. So yeah, this is going to go in my most recommended knives. The only downside is that they're kind of difficult to find right now, but if you can find one in that price range, you know, depending on when you're watching this video, and you're interested in it, then I'd say go for it, because I think this is a really well-made knife. I think that's going to be pretty much it for today, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like. So check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on this metal complex logo right here and make sure your notifications are set to all, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.